Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of our Monday Night Socials for Elite Gaming. And my next guest is Ryan Smith. Now, Ryan has a unique business. Are you still the youngest funeral director in America?
I don't know about youngest funeral director, but as far as I know, I'm the youngest funeral home owner.
Oh,
At least
okay.
in New York, but most
Yep.
likely in the nation. Yeah,
Now, it seems like an unusual job for someone your age, being so young. And it's not something that people talk about.
that's
People
right.
want to be firemen. People want to be doctors or nurses or EMTs.
Yeah,
So you are a funeral director
that's right.
and the owner of Syracuse Simplicity,
Correct.
a funeral home, and tell people what your specialty is.
So we are a funeral home, just like any other funeral home
Yeah.
in any area. However, we specialize in cremation. As you may have noticed, people are opting to be cremated now. We're at
Yeah.
60% cremation here in the United States. We're projected by the Cremation Association of North America to reach 70% in the next 5 to 10 years and to go up from there.
Yeah.
We have other countries that have already hit 75, 80% cremation.
And why is that?
There's a lot of factors that go into it. I think a lot of people's immediate thought is price. Cremation is significantly less expensive than
Sure.
a traditional burial, but a lot of families are choosing it out of principle. We have a number of cultures here in Syracuse, whether it's Hindu families, Buddhist families, that's a part of their tradition
Yeah.
is to have cremation. Additionally, it's options.
Yeah.
When someone is cremated, we create a lot more options. One, it's a timeline.
Yeah.
We're a transient culture.
Yeah.
Kids live over here and there and on different coasts. And when we have a traditional funeral with the body, we have a timeline, as I'm sure you can imagine, of when things need to happen. When someone's cremated, we don't have those concerns about the natural breakdown. So we can slow things down. We have time to make a plan, time to schedule services. Like I have a family later this April. They're planning on having the burial on the date of the person's birthday
Okay.
to kind of create a bookend
Yeah.
on that person's life. We wouldn't necessarily be able to plan for that without the cremation, as well as the things that you can do are limitless. We can turn you into a diamond.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah, yeah. There is a phenomenal company. We have carbon in our body, and
Sure.
so there's carbon in your ashes.
Yeah.
And they take the carbon in your ashes, and carbon, I guess, is I may be speaking out of turn here, but one of the building blocks of a diamond.
Absolutely is, yes.
So
Yeah.
they can use the carbon in your ashes to create an actual diamond.
Do you have to cremate me at a certain temperature for it to be for you to be able to do that process?
That's a good question, Lisa. No, we would just do a normal cremation, and then we would just take the ashes, and the company that does that,
Yeah.
one of them off the top of my head is a company called Eterniva.
Uh-huh.
They have a special scientific process.
Yeah.
And they turn you into a diamond. We can turn you into fireworks.
Really?
Yep, you can light up the sky on 4th of July if that's your jam. We also sell little pieces of jewelry that the ashes can go inside of.
Sure.
You can have your ashes scattered in just about any place. I think Disney has a new policy where they ask people not to spread their loved ones' ashes on a Disney ride. That's becoming a problem.
Yeah.
But you can go into Oneida Lake or Skinny Atlas Lake, wherever you'd like. And we can also be traditional. We can bury your ashes in the cemetery. We have a lot of Catholic families here in Syracuse, and the church does teach that the ashes should stay together and be buried. And you're still, even burying the ashes, you're saving quite a bit of money than a
Yeah.
burial.
Did the Pope give special dispensation or did he change the rule? Because when I was a little kid, because I grew up Catholic, they said, no,
Yeah.
no dice.
Yeah. So in 1962, when the Second Vatican Council came down, that is when the Mass turned into English.
Yeah.
So the Latin went away. A lot of different things changed, and one
Yeah.
of them was the church permitted cremation with certain stipulations.
Okay.
Ideally, the body still comes into church, or
Yeah.
the urn comes into church, the ashes stay together, and they're buried in a Catholic cemetery or in a Catholic mausoleum.
Yeah.
there are some dioceses, not really here in Syracuse, but I have
Yeah.
heard of some dioceses where they're still not all the way on board with that.
Yeah.
And then our Orthodox friends, they still take a hard line, no
Yeah.
cremation.
Yeah.
We've had trouble getting an Orthodox priest to even come to the funeral home to say prayers if the person's been cremated. And we still have a lot of cultures here in Syracuse that stay with burial. Our Muslim community,
Yeah.
the Jewish community, they prefer burial.
All right. And they haven't relaxed those rules. You have to do burial.
You
Yeah.
have to do burial. Yeah.
Got it. But as far as cremation goes, so if I'm cremated, do I have to be embalmed?
That's a good question. The answer is no. You don't have
Okay.
to be embalmed. The purpose of embalming is to stabilize someone's remains.
Sure.
As you may or may not know, the body has a natural breakdown that starts to occur after someone passes away. By embalming someone, we're able to slow that process down, and also there's a cosmetic effect to
Yeah.
help that person, as they say, they look like they're sleeping.
Sure.
Um,
Not really, but
well, it depends
close.
on the funeral home.
Close. Close.
Close.
So, yeah.
But at Syracuse Simplicity, I like to say you look like you're sleeping.
Yeah.
So that's for the purpose of if we're having a viewing a while out,
Yeah.
5 days, a week, 2
Sure.
weeks, 3 weeks,
Yeah.
or a traditional burial where we're extending that process. The other time embalming takes place is if you donate your body to science.
Okay.
That's how they stabilize your remains for study for the medical students.
Okay.
But with cremation, it's not necessary. Almost all of our families at Syracuse Simplicity still choose to have a viewing in a different format. So when you come in to make arrangements with us when a loved one's passed away, in most cases, your loved one, we will have them ready in our chapel for you to spend time with them.
Yeah.
We'll give them a bath. We'll brush their hair out. We'll close their eyes and their mouth. We'll dress them in their own clothes or in a hospital gown. And then your family, after we finalized all the details, they're welcome to come in and spend some time that way. Embalming is just not necessary for that.
Yeah.
Now, if we were to have a viewing, which we can do, like a public viewing where there's calling hours and people are coming in and out, that's when we would recommend the embalming because then we can control more of the variables.
Yeah.
But for just a private family viewing, which is usually happening the next day,
Sure.
most cases it's not necessary for us to embalm, and we're not going to do any services and certainly not charge you for any services that aren't necessary.
You know, when so I lost both my parents, of course.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And but the process was my mom had it all figured out.
Mm-hmm.
My dad said he had requests, certain military things he really wanted.
Sure.
And but my mom, he said, just do everything your mother did. So we went to the same place and they knew my family, and they do everything same, different color. My mom had a white casket. My dad had like gunmetal, silk gunmetal gray, so
Very
it was cool.
nice. Yeah.
And but they never, they're just do whatever. They're in a mausoleum next to each other,
Oh, yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So those were his wishes. Do you ever have people just have no wishes, and then the family kind of argues about it? How do you handle
That's
it?
a good question. That does happen from time to time,
Sure.
and this is why we always encourage people to pre-plan
Yes.
or even prepay.
Yeah.
By pre-planning, what you're doing is you're making all of those difficult decisions
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
When someone passes away, there are almost 100 decisions that have to be made within the
Sure.
first 48 hours, on top of the fact that you just miss your loved one.
Sure.
Grief sabotages the way you're thinking.
Yes.
So when you have a clear head and you can really think things through before you need it, coming up with a plan and having a conversation with your kids. I always tell people, we hear a lot, I don't want people to be sad or standing around, throw a party or just do a cremation and don't worry about it. And really that's a conversation that you should have with your children, because to be a little crude, you're not going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do the people you're leaving behind, what do they need
Yeah.
to walk away from that situation with some sense of closure?
Yeah.
So pre-planning is a phenomenal idea. There's no questions. And then your kids, or whoever you're leaving behind walks away from that situation with a sense of peace that we did what they wanted.
Yes.
Not what
There's no
mom
question.
or dad would have wanted.
Yeah.
Them.
Yeah. Then there's no
Absolutely.
question.
And by prepaying, what you do is you lock your price in. As we know right now, we're feeling the burden of inflation. Prices are continuing to go up.
Sure.
We strive, that's our big thing at Syracuse Simplicity, is keeping things affordable for families. I think that's someone's main concern when a death happens is how much is this going to cost?
Yeah.
People are really being strained. So we keep our prices affordable. As time goes on, we will eventually, like all businesses, have to raise our prices. But by prepaying, you're locking yourself into that price.
Can you work with your insurance company, your life insurance carrier, and say, hey, set this aside with this company, and make it happen so my kids don't have to worry about it? I mean, can my insurance company just call you, or can I make arrangements with them and say, call them and don't trouble my kids and just take it out of the policy?
That's a great question, and that is something we can do. So if someone has a life insurance policy, what we'll do is a family comes in and says, Mom had an insurance policy. We'd like to cover these expenses with the insurance policy.
Yep.
We'll reach out to the insurance company. We'll verify the funds are there, that
Yep.
there is indeed an insurance policy. And then what we'll do is called an insurance assignment. So we'll assign the amount of our funeral bill from the insurance company to us.
Yeah.
And then whoever's the beneficiary, all they do is sign one single form.
Yeah.
Once the insurance is all set, they'll pay out whatever our bill was to us, and then
Yeah.
the remainder goes to the beneficiary.
So can I do that as the person, planning for my own passing? Can I take care of all that?
Unfortunately not. So you
have
can't
to
do that
wait.
ahead of
Okay.
time. A funeral home cannot be the beneficiary of an insurance policy.
Yeah.
So that could be something that you stipulate either in your will,
Sure.
or you just make it known to the funeral home and to your children that this is how we're going to take care of things.
Or I just take care of it while I'm alive.
You can do that too. You can take care of it while you're alive, and then your children get the entire amount of the insurance policy. Or some families just opt to pay for the services, and then they reimburse themselves through
Yeah.
the policy.
Yeah. So what do you think makes your business, Syracuse Simplicity, different?
That's a great question, and I love answering that question.
I thought you might. You look like that kind of guy.
Well, we are. I like to say, gone are the days of the funeral home that looks like your grandparents' living room from the 1970s.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think funeral home, you think organ music in the background, heavy drapes, low lights, shag carpeting.
Yeah.
We're trying to reinvent that. It's one of the few industries where we really just have been very slow to get with the times. And so that was my vision. That's not something that I saw happening here in Syracuse. I think people want something different.
Yeah.
They just don't have anything different as
They
an
don't
option.
know. They just don't know that it could be
Exactly.
different. You just expect it to look like, a set. It looks. They all look like a movie set.
They do.
They look like the same movie set over and over and over.
Yeah, it looks like the scene out of like Silence of the Lambs or
Yeah,
something
it's
like
always
that.
so.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
ugh.
Yeah, you dread going to the funeral home. And
Yeah.
it's also very, very heavy in tradition, which I think there is
Yes.
value in tradition.
Sure.
But I also think there's a value in what is meaningful to us.
Yeah.
And for some families, that is prayers at the funeral home, going to church, going to the cemetery, and then going to wherever for a reception.
Yeah.
But that's not everybody's jam.
Yeah.
So we have we've partnered with venues like Sky Armory,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful wedding venue here in downtown Syracuse.
Sure.
They have their in-house caterer. So instead of going from point A to point B to point C, we can bring your loved one's ashes into Sky Armory. There's a beautiful area for a service, and then your guests just move into the next room for a catered lunch or dinner there.
Yeah.
The Butterfly Garden on Onondaga Lake with Hope for Bereaved.
Yeah.
We have a really strong relationship with Hope for the Bereaved. So if the weather's nice, we can have an outside service right there on the lake, if that's what's meaningful
Nice.
to your family. We also have a partnership with Rail Line down here.
Yeah.
They have a rooftop area.
Yeah.
We are only limited by your imagination.
Yeah.
So our idea is not to box families into, you have to have this, or that here in our very old looking facility.
Yeah.
We've put some time and energy into the space to make it feel brighter, more healing, more uplifting. and offering more unique service options for families to honor their loved one. We want this to be a reflection of their loved one. So I think that's really what sets Syracuse Simplicity apart. And it's in our name, Simplicity. We try to lay everything out. We keep our pricing clear and upfront. There's no surprises when you call us. You don't even have to call us. If you go on our website, everything's laid out for you. So we try to simplify all of that process. We have partnerships with the local hotel here at the Hampton Inn. Families who work with us, we have a lot of families who are out of town.
Yeah.
They have a loved one here in Syracuse who passes away. If you're dealing with Syracuse Simplicity, you get an 18% discount at the hotel there.
Oh, nice.
And we all
That's
work
nice.
together. So we create a seamless process for a family because the main thing is we want to take care of all of those logistics so you can focus on missing your loved one.
Yeah. That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I like how
thank
sensitive
you.
you are to the whole process because it is, especially if you really loved not every, sometimes it really hurts.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Yeah, it really does. We're able to, it's an honor to be with people during their, really the most difficult season of your life.
Yeah.
And they're looking for someone who knows what they're talking about and can be a rock for them.
Yeah.
And it is, we definitely have a heart, but we also have to be steady for that family.
Yeah.
If I'm emotional, I'm no good to that family.
Yeah.
But putting myself in their shoes. If this happened to my loved one, what would I want? How would I want to be dealt with? How would I want my loved one to be treated and cared for?
Yes.
And so that's what goes into the way we do things at Syracuse Simplicity.
I love that.
Is we hold ourselves as if the family's always watching us.
Yeah.
Providing very gentle and compassionate care.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Now, before I cry, now I
Okay.
want to talk about fun stuff. Let's
All right.
end with fun stuff.
Let's do it.
Because death is fun. No, it's not. I mean, it's very sad. I lost, losing my parents, losing my father in particular, right during COVID. Oh, brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
This is what love feels like, right?
You're right.
Yeah.
See, now I'm going to
It
cry.
hurts. You can cry.
No.
It's okay.
No, it'll ruin my makeup. Okay, no. Let's talk about fun stuff. I want to be a diamond. Okay.
Okay.
Now wait. I want to be a diamond.
Uh-huh.
If I have my pet's ashes,
Okay.
can you take me
Mm-hmm.
and my pet's ashes and make a diamond with both of them?
I don't see why not.
Can you take my ashes and my pet's ashes and bury them together?
In most cases, yes.
Okay.
There are some cemeteries where that's a no-go.
So how many diamonds can you make out of one person?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I would think a lot of diamonds.
I guess it depends on the
A lot
person.
of diamonds. We have this company that we've partnered with that I think is super cool.
Yeah.
It's called Parting Stone.
Okay.
And so now when we meet with a family, instead of just offering ashes, we can say, would you like your loved one's ashes or would you like solidified ashes?
Okay.
And I wish I had a visual for you. They take your loved one's ashes. We ship them out to a company in California, and they create stones. These really beautiful, smooth pebbles, like pebbles you would find on a lake that you can skip. They turn your ashes into pebbles or into these stones.
Yeah.
They're beautiful. They come in different, depending on the medication that your loved one was on.
No kidding.
Will create a different color.
Huh.
So some come out like a little blue, some come out a little yellow, some come out pink, some come out white.
Okay.
And so these are stones you can carry in your pocket.
Oh.
You can hold. People can bury the stones.
Yeah.
When it comes to scattering ashes is not as clean and tidy as it is in the movies.
Yeah.
So instead of kind of leaving things up to chance with scattering ashes, we can have your loved one's ashes solidified into these stones.
Yeah.
And then you could, if you wanted to, you could skip your loved one into the water.
Yeah.
Skip rocks. It's a little,
yeah.
keeps things a little more together.
I would, and part of me doesn't want to give them away at all. Part of me wouldn't want to scatter their ashes, and I would want to
understand.
keep some of them. So that's where a stone or a diamond or something like that would come in. Can you turn us into like a place to plant a tree?
You can. I always make the caveat though. We funeral direct.
Because people have seen that.
Oh yeah,
Right.
we're always putting our face in our hands whenever a Facebook trend
Yeah.
gets going, and
Yeah.
then I get all these text messages.
Yeah.
So your ashes could be mixed with the potting soil and the seeds or the sapling of a tree and planted. You will not become the tree.
Yeah.
Maybe a biologist can
Yeah.
chime in.
You're not
and correct
planting
me.
my body.
No, you're not turning into a tree, but your ashes
Yeah.
are there with
Your
the tree.
ashes are mixed with the tree.
So chances
Okay.
are you're going to just be at the bottom of
All
the
right.
tree. But it's still a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
Is becoming popular is this thing called terramation.
What's terramation?
Terramation is where you're placed in a pod, like a wall of pods.
Okay.
And the idea is you're basically the natural breakdown of the body,
Yeah.
which happens over months, years.
Sure.
They're speeding it up
Okay.
into maybe 3 months in this little pod.
Okay.
So your body's breaking down and becomes soil.
All right.
Because eventually we'll all become soil.
Sure.
And then that soil is returned to the family to do with it as they will. So they can plant that soil in their garden,
Yeah.
or in a forest. They can plant a tree with that soil. It's a lot of soil, like pounds of soil.
Yeah.
So if you don't want all of the soil, this company, they have their own tree conservation area.
Yeah.
Where they'll put some of your loved one. It is now legal in New York. However, I don't see it taking off because New York's kind of funny with our laws, with everything. But in funeral service, a funeral home cannot control a place of disposition.
Yeah.
So a funeral home cannot own a cemetery. We cannot own a crematory, and we cannot own the terramation process. So a cemetery has to do that, and I don't think most cemeteries have the interest or the infrastructure to do this.
Yeah.
I know the big cemetery in Brooklyn, Greenwood, Oakwood, something like that. They have started doing that.
Okay.
There's places in Washington that you can do it, and we can arrange for you to be shipped over there for it.
Yeah.
So we would put you on a plane and get you to Washington. That's a part of what we do.
One more question, and then we'll wrap it up. What made you want to become a funeral director? Did you want to be a doctor and then said, you know what?
Yeah, I was going to be a surgeon, but my hand was too shaky.
That's why, because there's science to it.
That's
You
true.
go to school for it. You don't just show up one day and go, hey,
Yeah.
I think I want to be a funeral director.
Yeah.
You went to school for 4 years.
No. I went to trade school for 1 year.
You went to trade school.
Yeah,
Okay, so tell me
yeah.
about your path and why you wanted to be a funeral director.
Yeah.
And did you want to be a fireman? What's the deal?
Believe it or not, I always wanted to be a funeral director. When I was 6, I went to my grandmother's funeral.
Yeah.
And I was very drawn to the man in the suit and the long black car.
Yeah.
And I decided when I was 6 years old, I was going to wear a suit and drive a long black car. And now I wear a suit and I drive a long black car. So if you don't shoot very high, you can make all your dreams come true really fast, Lisa. But as soon as I could get a job at a local funeral home, I did. And I really enjoyed it, watching the man who mentored me, his heart for families and the care.
Yes.
And the respect the community had for what he did.
Yes.
And even the things that people don't see, the little behind-the-scenes touches that no one would ever know about, but showed the heart and care that he had. I knew this is what I wanted to do. So I went to trade school for 1 year in Pittsburgh Institute of Mortuary Science. I lived in the attic of a funeral home with a couple other mortuary science students, and we ran the vacuum. We worked wakes, and during the day we went to class. And then after a year, they gave me a diploma. I had to serve an apprenticeship. I did take a board exam and a state law exam. And then I became a licensed funeral director November of 2021. I was 20 years old. I couldn't even drink, but I was licensed in New York State to be a funeral director. And I worked for some various firms here in the Syracuse area, learned a lot from a lot of different people, and had the opportunity to go out on my own. And I've always wanted to be my own boss. And I've always had my own ideas for how people should be taken care of. And different ideas of how we can change things up a little bit, how we can revisit how we say goodbye, and to find more meaningful ways for people to say goodbye. And so now here I am. We launched Syracuse Simplicity in January. I've had the honor of serving now. We're at 22 families have called on us to take care of their loved one, which is more than I imagined for our
Yeah.
first 3 months. So as we get the word out more and we build trust with the community, that's the biggest
Sure.
thing. We have to build trust with the community and show them that we're going to do right by their families. Yeah, I'm here
Oh,
to stay.
well,
I love Syracuse. It's a great place.
yeah, it is a
Yeah.
great place. I'm so happy that you came in today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It was really an honor to meet you. And
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I always have questions that, you would be the only guy that would be able to answer some of them.
I'm your guy.
I have more questions. We're
Yeah.
going to have to do this again.
Absolutely.
And you're going to have to let me ask all like the weird questions.
Any dinner party or cocktail party I go to,
Yeah.
I'm in the corner and people just,
Yeah. People have questions.
Yeah, a lot
all
of
right.
questions.
We're going to do this again.
I'm looking forward to it.
Ryan, so nice to meet you.
A pleasure, Lisa.
Thank you. Syracuse Simplicity is
That's right.
SyracuseSimplicity.com.
SyracuseSimplicity.com. Compassionate cremation care.
Very good. All right, Ryan, we'll have more. I didn't know you could be put in fireworks.
That's right.
I love that.
Go out with a bang.
Yeah, I want to talk about that another time. And special thanks to Elite Gaming, esports leagues, boot camps, podcast studios, event space, #Together We Game. Yeah, elitegaming.gg. So thank you, Elite Gaming, for hosting this podcast. And you can give them a call, 315-671-9002. I'm Lisa. Join us again for another Monday Night Social podcast in cooperation with Elite Gaming. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.